Hello everyone and welcome to Shifted Plate. This is our fifth shift in Shifted Plate, Brilliant Beans. If you are just stumbling across this video and haven't heard of the Shifted Plate is a 16-week, 8-shift program where we help you eat less meat by cooking delicious, nutritious food that also just happens to be good for the planet. Just a couple of housekeeping things. My colleague Robin is in the background and is going to drop a couple of things in the chat from time to time. If you have any questions or need me to clarify anything, please feel free to drop it in the chat and Robin will answer you or will answer you later via email. But Robin's got all the answers, so feel free to ask away. We have been in the Shifted Plate program I guess we're about halfway through, and this is the 8th week. So we've done a really great job at having a huge impact. People have been uploading pictures of what they're cooking to the platform, and Robin will drop the link to the Shifted Plate platform in the chat. That is shiftedplate.zestyplan.com. And you can see we've just had an incredible impact so far because all of these dishes that we've cooked have been lower in climate impact than their analogous counterparts. So far we have taken the equivalent of 143 cars off the road for a day, conserved over 1,700 bathtubs of water, and saved over $520. So really big impact just by cooking some nice, delicious, simple plant-based dishes. And tonight in our 5th shift, Brilliant Beans, in case I didn't mention it, we are cooking a Marry Me Butter Bean dish. So Marry Me Butter Beans is the analogous to this Marry Me Chicken dish that's super popular. People make it all the time. Sometimes you'll see a Marry Me Chickpea dish. This one is focused on big, delicious butter beans. Now, butter beans are also called lima beans, and they get their name from, I'm going to say, Latin roots, and they're in the shape of a moon. So that's part of why they got their name. There's several other ways that people refer to lima beans / butter beans, but right now I'll probably be calling them back and forth butter beans and lima beans. And if you aren't familiar with why beans are so great for the planet, they actually help fix nitrogen in the soil. So they help to make sure that things that fertilize and nourish the soil are transferred there. And they also use a lot less water than lots of other proteins. So they make a great choice. They're also like super delicious. And one of the hallmarks of a butter bean is that it's super creamy. So it's got a bit of a firm outside, a super creamy inside. So it has a really nice flavor texture combination. And you're going to see tonight, and you'll see in the recipe in the Shifted Plate platform, that we're actually using canned beans. And lots of chefs will say the only way to go is actually dried beans. And we do actually really like dried beans as well. But you do have to soak them overnight or cook them in an Instapot first. People will say that cooking overnight is the only way, because even if you do cook them and then use them, sometimes it doesn't have as nice a texture apparently as the soaking overnight. But we're using canned beans because, hey, we're busy people. So we're going to use canned beans tonight. You're going to love this dish. We served it to our family on the weekend. Everybody really enjoyed it. And we're cooking it and serving it with rice tonight. But you could have a crusty bread, you could serve it with noodles, roast potatoes, anything that you'd like. It's a delicious dish that's got a ton of flavor in it, some sun-dried tomatoes and lots of other delicious ingredients. So it's actually really fast. So I'm doing some talking up front just because I want to make sure that I'm dropping all the knowledge that I usually do while something bakes or cooks or bubbles or simmers. Once we get started on this dish, it's going to be done so fast. I'm talking 15 minutes. But then, as always, we are going to spend a little time plating because, yes, You absolutely eat with your eyes before you do with your mouth, and having a good looking plate is super important. I've also got a big surprise, so stay till the end. I made a bonus recipe and I really want to share it with you because it blew my mind when I made it, and it's super delicious, so I can't wait to show you. Let me think if there's anything else I wanted to tell you about beans before we jumped in. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention about why it's great to soak beans is it actually really reduces the cooking time. That might be pretty straightforward and obvious, but it does really reduce the cooking time because otherwise you're looking at boiling beans for 2 or 3 hours. So yeah, depending on the age of your beans. But that's it. Let's take a look over at the stove and see what we've going on. If you've been to these classes before, you'll remember sort of my mantra when I set up and get ready to cook. And if you're cooking along with us, you've heard this enough times that you'll probably have done this already. But I set up my my ingredients right beside where I'm going to cook them, and I actually set them up in the order that I'm going to use them. I really don't like going back and forth between a recipe if I'm following a recipe and the dish. So I know this is the order that I'm going to be adding ingredients to my pan. So I have them all there right beside it. And having stuff prepared, that's the mise en place. That's making sure everything is in its place and ready to go, so you can actually sit back and enjoy cooking. It really changed for me my amount of joy from creating dishes and testing and experimenting when I started actually prepping a little bit more, and I wasn't like rushing and trying to grab ingredients. I got the things that I thought I was going to use ready, set up beside the stove. It's a nice relaxing atmosphere. You sit there and you taste as you go. So just recommend doing that if you haven't done that. And let's head over to the stove. We're just waiting for this to get nice and shiny, and then we're gonna dump in, oh, I can see some smoke coming, so I'm guessing it's pretty ready. Yeah, hear that? Let's turn it down because it's on like super high. All right, let's get it going. And over to the right, I've got all of my ingredients just sitting there ready to go. And we are just letting those onions get nice and brown. That'll just take a couple of minutes. We don't want them to burn. Just getting them ready. And then we're going to throw on that garlic. So getting the aromatics in there and getting some heat and oil on them really adds a lot of flavor. Oh, there's an extra little guy in there. I got him, don't worry. All right, so there we are. Oh, actually, there's a little peel. I mean, how often does that happen? Like every time. Little guys right on the side. But still, we're just letting those onions fry right up. And there we go. Okay. Now, like I mentioned, this is going to go super fast. You're going to be surprised how quickly we make this Marry Me Butterbean dish. It is one of the fastest dishes that I make. So that was maybe a minute. Let's grab our bench scrape and pick up our garlic. And again, the garlic's pretty delicate, so I'll turn it down a little bit. I've got it at 5 now just because I really don't want to burn that garlic because it really changes the flavor of the dish. But there we go. Let's get that in there as well. Heating up. You couldn't use a nice chunk of garlic. We have some really nice organic garlic from a local farm called Fennings. And you can see just the individual garlic cloves are so huge. And it's interesting, this week I was at the Center for Social Innovation doing an in-person session, and the discussion was all around like, how many cloves of garlic is it really when you have those mondo cloves of garlic? I don't know. I think it's still equivalent. Still go for 3 mondo cloves of garlic. It just makes the dish taste nice and garlicky, which, I mean, you gotta love garlic, right? Now, one of the magic things about oil and heat is that it really helps spices bloom. So we're gonna throw in our spices now. I didn't have fresh oregano, so I'm just using, instead of a tablespoon of fresh oregano, I'm using a teaspoon of dried. And I do have some fresh thyme in there. Usually I would hold that off until a little bit longer, just because those some of those fresh herbs are a little bit more delicate, but I just pop them in there anyway. And if you're cooking along with us, you know, this is like one of the best things to do, putting all your spices in just one container, and then you're not like, you know, spooning them out one at a time. And oh wow, the smell. If you're cooking along with me, you know what I'm talking about. This is so good. Woo! Smells really nice. Yeah. And what you want is starting to see some of the spices like really stick a little bit to the pan. So that's when we deglaze the pan. That's all going to come back up and like go right into this delicious sauce. All right. And I think I mentioned in the recipe, I know I mentioned in the recipe, that you really want to use sun-dried tomatoes packed in oil. And the reason for that is, well, I mean, you can use either, but the reason that we really like it, or I really like it, is because it just makes it more convenient. Because if you do buy dried sun-dried tomatoes, like dried not in oil, you actually have to rehydrate them in water for about an hour. So I've got a bunch. I used a whole can, like a small can of sun-dried tomatoes. The recipe calls for like 14, and 14 whole, and then I just cut them up. But anyways, I'm going to pop these in there. The other thing that you can do, and you can see there's some residual oil in here, is you can even use some of the oil from the sun-dried tomato jar, and that's going to add even more flavor to your dish. Now here you've got even more oil. So nice. Let's get those sun-dried tomatoes heated up. That did pick up some of our little bits on the bottom because there was still a fair bit of oil. And I did not pat these dry or anything. I just took them out and I chopped them on the cutting board and got some oil on my hands. But this is going to taste so delicious. Let's not push it around too much because we need the heat to hit it. But yeah, that's one of the lessons that I learned in cooking this dish several times and going back and forth between the dried sun-dried tomatoes and the sun-dried tomatoes in oil is, you know, big mistake I made the first couple of times I made it, and I did not rehydrate dried ones. So, but I like the convenience of the ones in oil. So I just chop them up, throw them in there. This is all nice and hot. You can see it bubbling there. And we're going to go ahead and add in our stock. And that's going to deglaze anything else that was sticking to the pan. We're going to make sure and give it a good rub. And that's going to pick up any of those delicious bits that are stuck on the bottom of the pan. And I'm just going to let that heat back up before I start adding in the rest of my stuff. So I'm going to add in the cup of coconut milk as well, but let's just turn up the heat a little bit just because we want to get that liquid hot and ready to take the butter beans and the spinach that is going to follow. These are going to be so delicious. And all right, you can see it start to bubble. So let's pour in our coconut milk. And again, we called for full fat coconut milk, so it gives us that nice creaminess. And you can see that just starting to take shape there. And honestly, it's not going to take too much longer from here on in. Oh, I love just the look of it. Doesn't that look luxurious? You can see a little bit of the sun-dried tomato oil sitting on top. I want it to be a little bit warmer before I put in the rest of my ingredients. This is going to be amazing. Now we put a little bit of crushed chili flakes in it, and I know I said in the recipe that, you know, it called for a teaspoon, but if you want to, you know, ease up on the spice a little bit, feel free to back that up to a half a teaspoon. And if you want to even add more spice to it, if you are a spice lover, you know, feel free to crank it up a little bit. I really like the red chili flakes. There's lots of different types of hot flakes you could use. You could even use a fresh chopped pepper if you wanted to in there, and add it in around the same time that you're adding in your garlic, and get the flavors mixing. Okay, so this is starting to come together. We should let this cook just for a little bit so that it concentrates a little bit. And let's turn down the heat. There we go. And once we put the butter beans in it, what's going to happen is those butter beans are going to start soaking up some of this flavor, and the spinach also is going to really sort of get all of this creamy sauce wrapped around it. So while it looks fairly watery right now, or fairly runny, you're going to see that concentrate. I'm just going to give this a little taste, because you always taste as you go to make sure that it's delicious. And then you can always adjust for salt. We put a teaspoon of salt in here with the spices. Oh my gosh, wow, that's amazing. That is very, very flavorful. Oh, woo, yeah. Yep, there you are, chili flakes. All right, let's keep this going. I think that we had it going for 2 to 3 minutes. You could get it going a little bit longer if you wanted to, if you're trying to concentrate things. And sometimes I'll actually add an extra can of butter beans in here. So right now we're just doing, or today we're just doing 1 can, but sometimes I'll add 2 cans, and that just adds to the additional protein and fiber and all of the goodness that is in butter beans. All right, are you ready for the next step? I am. All right, we're gonna throw in these butter beans. Woo, I just got a little bit on my shirt. That's why you should always wear an apron. Yeah, didn't wear my apron today. That's okay. All right, and I want to just show you a close-up of what these butter beans look like if you haven't had a look. Yeah, you can see, right? Little half moons. Yeah. Pretty cute. All right, so we're adding those in. I'm turning up the heat again just to get those going. And I'm going to add in my spinach at the same time. I called for 2 cups, I think, in the recipe, and I had a little bit more. I mean, it's not a big deal, right? It's one of those things that if you like the flavor in a dish, you don't want to get too caught up in, the exact measurements. It's like, as long as it's tasting good as you go along, that's the important part. Now, it's totally different if you're baking. Baking is a totally different thing. You need to really follow the ingredients or the instructions and quantities and all that sort of stuff in baking. Totally different beast. But cooking, yeah, you can freestyle a little bit. So there we go. Let's just let that. Doesn't that look great? All right, I'm just gonna let that simmer a little bit. All right, turn her way down and just let it simmer a little bit. I'm gonna set back up over on the island. Oh, it's delicious. Okay, so I did promise you a surprise. I'm going to show you, you can actually make a chocolate panna cotta with butter beans. Absolutely true. True story. Look at this. Amazing, right? You could even add, like, I don't know, a few peaches, whatever you fancy. But look at it. It is just made with coconut milk, agar-agar, butter beans, a little bit of vanilla, and maple syrup. It is so good. It's just blended and then set. You have to do something special with the agar-agar to dissolve it, but it is fantastic. So delicious. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at how smooth it is. There. Yeah, it's so smooth. Anyways, yeah. Just something a little mind-blowing before we get to finishing up our dish. All right. Marry me, butter beans. Let's finish this puppy off. Look at how good that looks. Isn't it amazing? Like just so, it's so beautiful, like the rich reds, it's like orange and green. Yep, this is it's just one of those really attractive dishes. Here we go. Just a nice generous dollop of rice. And we're just gonna plate this butter bean mixture right beside it. All right, are you ready for this? Just watch this. Like so good. Such a nice, delicious looking dish. Look at that. Yeah, you could serve this family style. You can serve it like this, individually plated dishes. This is, I don't know, this is such a good dish. Like, just look. Mmm, yum. Okay, let's do a quick taste. Mmm. Wow. That is so good. The butter beans have really started to soak up the sauce. You could even let that just sit for a little while and even more of the flavor would get infused. That is really, really good. That's got to be one of the simplest, most delicious bean dishes you could do on a weeknight for sure. Even on a weekend. Delicious. So good. Anyways, if you're in the Shifted Plate program and you cooked with us tonight, or even if you're cooking on your own time, make sure you take a picture of your dish, upload it to the Shifted Plate. You'll see all of the environmental, health, and financial metrics that are associated with this amazing bean dish. Thanks so much for joining me tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next time. And make sure that you cook some of those extra dishes that are in the platform. There's lots of great bean dishes in there. So I'll be sending out a few email reminders and some suggestions, and looking forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.